Well. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 53 of Take This. My name is Brad LaPlante. I'm here right now with Griff Sutton. How are you, Griff? How's your week been?
It's been good, man. I was on a little vacation at the end of last week, and I went up to Petoskey and just kind of hung out, watched the Red Wings draft, saw some new prospects. Not going to see any of them for 2 years, but now I know the names, so we'll see which ones actually come up and make a difference whenever that time comes. But
right.
it was good. It was good. How about you, Brad? Hey, what's going on in the world of Brad?
4th of July, we've spoke since then, so that's not new. Dude, nothing. Just hanging back, chilling out, and dude, my life is so boring right now. It's unbelievable. I don't know what else to.
Well, there's only baseball on, and Tigers stink. Mets are Metsing right now with the Braves
even if I try to watch the Blue Jays, they're not doing so hot either,
Dude, they're about to get passed by the Orioles.
Yeah, well.
But by the way, really, really great that the
Orioles somehow have found a way
ahead of us.
Found a way to do something. So, Griff, I did want to discuss the All-Star Game. Here's the weird thing about baseball, right? That every year we sit here, right here, and we discuss the worst of the All-Star Game and who should have made it, who shouldn't have made it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it feels like this is a recurring problem for baseball in that the All-Star Game is not representing its best players. Let me ask you a question, okay, Griff? What do you think is if you had to pick an All-Star Game that is best in its representation of players and their performance and also entertaining, which would you pick?
Of the major sports?
Of the major sports, yeah.
Normally I would have said basketball.
Okay.
But that's it still kind of is because it's just a trick shot event. So you have the dunk contest, which isn't nearly as good as it used to be. And then the actual game, which is just no one plays defense. It's kind of like the actual... Excuse me. It's like the NFL Pro Bowl. No one tries. But at least in basketball, because basketball is not really a contact sport, it's whatever. Hockey, good skills competition. That one's not as bad. I think baseball should be the most intriguing because everyone loves the home run derby. And it's in the middle of the season.
Well, and it's not a contact sport.
High.
So, people...
Right.
besides the pitchers, they can really try.
And guys aren't going to, dive out to make plays. And, they're not going to, try to injure themselves or anything like that.
But they can try to the best of their abilities without getting injured.
Yeah. No, I'd probably say baseball.
So... I guess my problem with baseball, and I'm not gonna get into how the All-Star Game could change itself because there are so many things that could make it more exciting. One of which I wish that they would add more events. I think that I love the way that the NHL does it, where they have a ton of small events, skills competitions, things like that. All baseball has is the home run derby, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to see
what are you gonna what other skills competition could you add to the MLB?
Again, this is creative, okay, but in Japan they have a bunting competition, and I'm not saying that this has got to be streamed live on ESPN. By no means does it need to be like primetime television. But at least it's like something going on, especially for the fans that are down there. Get people involved in the game. I don't know. Could you get the kids involved somehow? Have like, I know that they have that celebrity softball game that they do,
Yeah,
whatever. So like,
that,
but
like,
outside of that though, there's nothing going on.
Yeah, but I think because the event itself used to be enough, because it was kind of people kind of marveled at it. I remember when I was a kid, I really cared about the All-Star Game, and I felt like a lot of people did. Like I felt like it was just it had more impact on the cultural zeitgeist. But I don't think it does anymore. I think part of that is like, I think people have just moved on from the All-Star games, and that's in every sport. Like, I don't think many people care about it anymore. And the only reason the MLB one is interesting is because it's in the middle of the season, which is kind of funny because really it's like, I find it very funny when people be like, "Oh, he's a X-time All-Star." And I'm like, that doesn't mean he had X many good seasons. It means he had this many first half of seasons that were good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
and well, and like
my point with it
yeah,
is I just think like culturally, no, we don't care about it anymore. I think like the home run derby is like, I think more people find that interesting than the actual All-Star game itself. And it's kind of the same thing with the other ones. People care more about the dunk contest than the actual All-Star game in the NBA. I think more people care about skills competition than the game in hockey, and I think it's definitely the case. No one cares about the Pro Bowl.
no, I don't think that anyone ever has cared about the Pro Bowl.
I think the NFL, because the NFL is the only league that, for all their faults, wants to get ahead on these fucking issues. Has said they might probably just going to get rid of the game entirely and make it an event. So it's like, you're an all-star, you get the platitude, and they'll just do skills competitions. They'll expand those, do more fun things. Maybe do like that thing. It's like user fan control football kind of style. Just more user engagement stuff that isn't a real game. That's still fun to watch.
Okay, but by that same metric, like in college, and I know that this is a little bit different, but like all Americans don't get their own game, or skills competition. Nobody's throwing a fit.
No, and that's why it's like, I think if they just went away, no one's going to be too upset.
No, absolutely not. I mean, the only thing I think, the only one, well, I mean, I guess there's a couple ones, because basketball and hockey put theirs in the middle of the season too, right?
Yes, theirs is also in the middle of the season.
So,
but theirs is towards, I think it's more towards the end, because, now I'm curious what the 2021, because the hockey season started in October and it ended in April. Oh no, so it was right in the middle, January 29th through the 30th. So yeah, hockey's the same way, where it's in the middle, which is interesting, I think, because hockey, especially with it being then, is still competing with football.
Right.
Like, playoffs are going on around then. It's surprising that they don't extend.
They don't like
into
push
summer.
it somewhere else.
But I think part of the reason is because like the NHL, especially with everything's been a little delayed because of COVID, so they've started the season later and it's ended later. And I think part of that is because like the Avs won the cup and then the draft was literally like 3 weeks later.
Right.
So it's another thing to cram in. Typically, free agency starts very soon, so guys don't want to be dealing with the All-Star game. They want some downtime before they have to start worrying about that stuff. So I kind of get it. It's also just like a break, especially for baseball, having a couple days off.
Right. Like they get like a full week almost, basically.
Like, I'm not making excuses for the Tigers, but they are playing 19 games in 17 days. That's a lot of that's a lot. And I know it's baseball, but
right. Well, I mean,
still,
baseball's harder than a lot of people think. I think because they put so much like effort into, like the injuries are just different, right? like you need to be 100%. Like if you take a ball to the hand, for example, and this is maybe a bad example, but if you take a ball to the hand, that is going to be a lot more severe because you need that, right? Like to swing the bat, you need that to do certain things. Whereas in like hockey, or Stafford in football was playing with a broken shoulder for the long, or dislocated shoulder, a shoulder that popped out occasionally. Like he would play with that. And I mean, granted it was his left shoulder, but that's just not something you can do in baseball just because, I mean, there's, it's just a fundamentally different sport. Griff, I want to get into, obviously, baseball is All-Star Game. Obviously, that's why we're having this discussion. It will take place on July 19th, which is 8 days from now.
8 days from now.
8 days from now. And it's in LA. It is the second time that the All-Star Game is played at Dodger Stadium, as the last time was in 1980. And it also hosted the 1959 All-Star Game in Memorial Coliseum. And it has been played in Anaheim 3 times at Angel Stadium. And so, very exciting stuff. The rosters were just announced. Coaches or managers, obviously, will be from the Braves and Astros. As per tradition.
It's also his retirement tour as well. So
very exciting. So I'm not gonna get too deep into the woods here, but
minutia.
as far as AL starters, you got Alejandro Kirk at catcher for the Blue Jays, Vladdy, obviously, Jose Altuve, Rafael Devers, Tim Anderson from the White Sox, Judge, Trout, Stanton. All the big names. Ohtani is in there. For the NL, you got Wilson Contreras for the Cubs, Paul Goldschmidt, Jazz Chisholm, Manny Machado, Trey Turner, Acuna, Betts, Peterson, Bryce Harper. Again, all of those are the starters, right? All fan-voted starters.
Well, I'll say this. So I don't think Guerrero, Vladdy should have been the
really
first base. Ty France has better numbers than him throughout the year and is better defensively at first base.
So here's to be fair,
isn't in at all is just horseshit.
To be fair, okay, and I'm not about to because I agree that Ty France should be in. I think that the MLB right now has a very flawed system of like how they vote people in, because obviously like you vote, right? Like that's the biggest issue that the MLB has. And when you have that, essentially this becomes a popularity contest. In 2015, every starter except for 2 players, I'm pretty sure you can check me, but every starter in 2015 on the All-Star roster in the AL was from the Kansas City Royals outside of 2 players. And that was Mike Trout and like one other guy. Every other player was on the Royals roster.
I think it was Altuve.
It could have been. But my point is that this basically comes down to favoritism, right? Look at the Blue Jays, okay? Alejandro Kirk, by the way, who's having a great season, and that is well deserved. Okay, Kirk is he's like a 5'8" catcher. I have no idea how he's having this good of a season. Anyway, by the way, he is.
I was right because it was Trout and Altuve, and everyone else is on the Royals. It's
right,
Gordon,
and because the Royals just had
Hosmer,
like some fan voting militia.
Perez, Escobar, and Moustakas.
Yeah. So we got Alejandro Kirk from the Blue Jays. Kirk was like, again, he's well-deserved season. Vladdy at first base, also on the Blue Jays. You have George Springer in the outfield, okay? And then there's not Kevin Gausman. There's Alek Manoah from the Blue Jays as well. So he's like a second-year pitcher. he is in as well. So that's 4 members of the Blue Jays. Okay. Now look at the Astros. You got Framber Valdez. You got Justin Verlander. And again, those weren't fan voted in. But
yeah, Yordan Alvarez.
And then and you got Alvarez. You have
he's hurt.
Altuve. But again, and okay, look at the Mets. Okay, another one. The Mets have Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil. They have Starling Marte, and they have Edwin Diaz. That's another 4 players for one team. So, and the interesting thing though is that it seems like the MLB tries not to make that happen. So, like in the sense of like, if one team has too many players, but some players are picked over another, because the fan voting has a lot to do with this, right? So like if a player is fan voted in, that means that they have to start the game. Those are your starters. On that by that same token though, the managers choose the rest of the roster. And I think there's a committee involved that also is involved, and they basically choose the rest of the players, and every team needs representation. So if every team isn't represented, then other teams who maybe not deserve someone might boot someone off. And so that is kind of what you have here, right? Like, I don't know.
I think the one thing they should definitely do. Get rid of fan voting.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's it's bias, and typically a team that is either good or has the biggest fan base will always get more fan votes. I think it's a very silly thing to do because fans are, I'm going to be honest, stupid and shouldn't be in charge of it. Do a writer's poll, do a player's poll, do a coach's poll. People whose career it is to either play, manage, or cover the sport, I think is a way better solution. And get rid of every club having a representative. I am okay with Manfred being able to pick 2 reps, or the legend picks, the legend reps. I'm fine with that. I get the point of it. I don't think it's that big of a deal, especially if you can fix the issue by just having the teams selected, by not having a mandatory rep from every team. There won't be any snubs, so those won't feel as bad. Because, I do think it's cool to have Pujols and Miggy at the All-Star game. It's a send-off, and I think that's fine. Pujols has been getting the send-off treatment at every fucking stadium he's gone to this year. They do a fucking ceremony for him saying, because he's one of the greats. So I totally get it. But yeah, no, I think it's just I really think if you get rid of the man, then you don't get a Gregory Soto in, and then maybe instead you can put Kevin Gausman in, or you can put Dylan Cease in. I know they're starters, but it's the All-Star game. No one's pitching more than 2 innings anyway.
So the issue that I actually have with the whole Tiger situation is that, it's a little weird, okay? But Gregory Soto is not bad this year, okay? How many saves has he blown?
No, but he's not an all-star.
How many saves has he blown?
Okay, so he has
17 out of 19.
Yeah, he's only got 2. The
2
issue
blown
is
saves.
How many
ERA
games have the Tigers
is 2.67.
How many games? The saves I don't care about, because most of the time when he's been pitching, he is not in a save situation, so he doesn't have the opportunity to blow saves.
I mean, that's
You're
fair.
right. His ER. That's why stats are one weird. I just rewatched Knives Out last night, and there's a great line from Daniel Craig, and I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was the facts can paint a deceiving picture. And it's true, because this kind of happens with Soto, I think. Great example was yesterday, he blows the save. or it wasn't even a save because it was a tie game. But yesterday he comes in with a runner on first and he gives up the go-ahead run, but it wasn't an earned run on him because the pitcher previous to him let the guy on first, and the only reason the change was made is because AJ Hinch wanted a left-handed hitter to go up against a left-handed hitter and not a righty on lefty, even though it was Michael Fulmer, who statistically and just by watching him has had a great year. So that's like,
I mean,
an earned
Fulmer
run that
does
doesn't
have
count
the
against
only argument for Soto is that you could have put, if you had to pick a player that's on Detroit, you could have picked Michael Fulmer. Like, that is the only argument.
I'd say Alex Lang even more so. Like, so you're right. Soto, like, I do think Soto gets a little bit of hate. Like, I did see a crazy stat today. If he walks a batter, which typically means he doesn't have control if he's walking a batter, because he's only 3, right? He just needs 3 outs.
Right.
If he walks a batter, his ERA in an appearance where he walks a batter is like 9.3. He has like a strikeout to walk ratio is like insane. It's like more walks than strikeouts. His whip is insane. It's like all the numbers, and that's where his 2 blown saves were. He had a walk. I think that was in 19 of the appearances, or sorry, 11 of the appearances. And then in 19 of his appearances, because he's had an even 30, I think, or 32. So in the other 19 appearances he had where he didn't walk a guy, ERA is 0. That's how, like, if he has control, he's great. But he's very inconsistent on whether or not he has control over his pitches. Because let's be real, he just throws straight heat. He says, I'm going to throw the ball 101 miles an hour, try to hit it, hopefully it doesn't hit you. And it works for the most part, and it's impressive to throw it that fast. But for as good as Soto stats are, which they are good, Lang's and Fulmer's are better. I mean, ERA, Soto's 2.67, Lang's 1.91.
Yeah, and I mean, whip is really how I judge relievers, and even by that metric, like
1.091.
Right,
so,
like that's like one base runner per inning.
Yeah, like I genuinely think Lang or Fulmer are all-star caliber players by on their own merit, not by being they're like the Tigers pick. Like I think if, like, let's say pick, mandatory team reps are required, you do away with that. I think that that those guys, one, other, or both, could both make a case to be in the bullpen's all-star line. But like I said, I'm not really mad at the Soto pick either. But like, I think if there wasn't mandatory team reps, he doesn't get it, and I think part of the reason he got it is also because he was the Tigers team rep last year.
Well, so here's what I don't understand.
Like, back to back.
The Tigers did not need another rep; they already have 2.
I think that the legacy picks are not included in that number.
That doesn't make any sense because the only point of a legacy pick, or I mean, the only point of the team pick is that every team has representation. If every team is represented, then it doesn't matter.
It must, because you're right, because just because the Yankees had several guys, it doesn't mean they get another one because that's their team's, guaranteed rep. But I think because their legacy, like, for whatever reason, the legacy players are like 2 separate things, and I think specifically,
what are they, just honorees?
No. I think it's because it's chosen by the commissioner, and I think the players' union is probably saying, no, that's chosen by the commissioner, and that's fine, but you still need to have a player picked from the roster as, like, the official representative if the team doesn't already have one just naturally. At least that is, like, that's the one thing I could at least make sense because, like I said, the commissioner picks.
Right.
The legacy picks. That's the only thing in my head that would make sense. But you're right. Like, if they already got the one with Cabrera,
then they should, then they shouldn't have the other one.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm cool with the Cabrera one. That totally makes sense to me because, again, Swedish pick, it's fine. or Swedish pick, fucking legacy pick is fine, but it's the fact that like it. I honestly think like Soto could have been in on his own merit. I don't think he should have, but um,
Well, I mean,
like
again, listen, like
they
you, I
definitely could
mean,
have. But like I'm trying to think of like another bad team that like has a rep in the game that shouldn't. Like the Reds, like the Reds shouldn't have an all-star. The Tigers, because like the all-star is an individual thing, right? So all that
right.
matters is you have one person who has earned it. And like,
Hmm.
I don't know, has anyone on the Reds earned it? Sometimes you have a team that's full of good players, but no one really deserves the all-star spot. Like the Orioles have been playing well, but is anyone on their team really good enough to warrant an all-star
Yes.
spot over
So,
someone else? The
um,
Orioles might. Like I'm just you get what I'm saying though, right?
yeah.
Like just because you shouldn't just get it because your team needed a representative. I think it should just be best players voted on by the players, the coaches, and the writers. Maybe do it similar to, I don't want to say like a Heisman style because we know there's problems with that, but you get what I mean. Get or like do it similar to like how the NHL does their awards where it's voted on by media members. Typically, that works out okay.
So, but if you're wondering, by the way, the Reds All Star that they got was Luis Castillo. I don't believe they
Steel probably.
had a starter on the field. No, and they don't have a starter on the reserves. But by that same metric, like I mean, the Cubs they're a pretty bad team, but they have. I mean, every team seems to have like players who, can operate, right? Like Wilson Contreras is pretty good, but he's on a struggling Cubs team. You know, I don't know. I mean, the Orioles, who is it? Jorge Lopez, I think is their one. Like, I mean, he's obviously a rep pick. Like, I cannot see
Yeah.
another person on the Orioles being in. Like, that just wouldn't, that wouldn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I just think the All-Star game again, I think we as a culture and as a society have moved past it. I like it as a breakup in the middle of um to break up the season.
mhm.
I just think the game itself is not necessary. You can name your all-stars, and I just think need a better way of actually naming the all-stars, like I said, with having experts and not fans who can hijack it and change the results. I
Yeah,
think
I
just
mean,
have it based on merit
right.
and just go
And
from there.
well, and there's like, well, and like, look at this. Like, if there are two players right off the bat that I can see that don't deserve it. Okay. Paul Blackburn for the Athletics and Jorge Lopez for the Orioles. Okay. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't give a shit how good Paul Blackburn is doing unless he's like amazing. Let's look at his stats. Like, I don't know. Like those, because when I look at that, when I look at those two players, right off the top of my head, I think of Kevin Gausman. All right. I mean, the Blue Jays already have four guys, sure, and you could argue that at first base, the only problem I think with the first base issue is that there isn't actually another first baseman on the American League All-Star team.
Mm-hmm.
Is Arias a first baseman?
Couldn't tell you.
I
See, this is the issue also talking about baseball where it's like I really don't follow, especially NL teams, but like I don't follow a lot outside the AL Central because baseball is a regional sport, which is also why I think like voting is silly because like most fans only know their own team. Because that's
right.
just kind of how baseball is. It's not like baseball isn't dying. Like the whole thing about people like saying, "Oh, baseball is a dying sport." It's not dying. It's just never gonna be, or at least not without some serious overhaul and change. It's never gonna be a national sport. It's all
Right.
like people will watch football
Well,
And,
baseball's always local.
anytime.
Like baseball, people always give a shit about baseball from a local level. I think that like there are a few people that will follow every single team. I'm sure there are plenty of people who will follow every single team, but definitely not like the NFL or, like, I mean, even hockey. Like I will watch every playoff game because I think hockey's exciting. But, but baseball is just one of those things. But okay, so here's where your Ty France thing comes in. Look at this. This is an easy fix, okay? What you do is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is deserving, okay? Don't get me wrong. But here's the problem. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. won the fan vote. Do you know what that means? He's got to start the game. Do you see what I'm saying? You see what I'm coming from?
See, that's the thing where it's like, so even if there was a more deserving player like Ty France, who should at least have been an alternate, he would never have a chance to start because he didn't win the fan vote. Because Toronto is Canada's only team; they're gonna win fan votes.
And that's another thing, right? Like I think that in MLB expansion, obviously you just bring back Montreal. That's a good idea. Or you could add a West team. But that's a different episode. Look at the American League reserves that we have here, okay? We have Luis Arias, who is a second baseman. We have Xander Bogaerts, shortstop. Jose Ramirez, who's a third baseman. And Andreas Jimenez, who is a shortstop. No first baseman, like at all. You know what I mean? Like there should be another first baseman. Take a shortstop out. I mean, Jimenez. Or Arias, you know what I mean? Like, just put a first baseman there. Pretty easy if there's two short. If there cannot be three shortstops, should not make the All-Star team.
Yeah, no,
because you got Tim Anderson, you got Jimenez, and you got Bogaerts.
Yeah, unless that person is a shortstop, kind of like Alvarez, who is a left fielder, but he's mainly a DH, but he plays left field when called upon.
Right. But you know what I mean though? Like, I mean, that's an obvious fix, right? Or they just call them what? Infielders? Is Nolan Arenado, what is he? Well, why does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Why does the National League have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4? Why are there only 4 American League infield reserves, but there's 5 National League infield reserves? Because there's an extra outfield reserve somewhere in there.
Oh.
On the American League side. Why that also doesn't make sense to me. Why are the rosters not even? I'm sorry, I'm just asking questions, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're going to be snubs if everything's not even. I guess is my point.
I agree with you. It's just it's just kind of
a guy that's batting .339 isn't in the All-Star game. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, what's hold on. I have his numbers right here. Yeah, Ty France is 339 with
923 OPS.
23 OPS, which
just ridiculous.
What is I always I've argued with this about people, and I guess I want to make sure I'm not wrong when I say it. What is what is a replacement level player's WAR? Is it 600? Or sorry, WAR, not WAR. OPS.
OPS?
What is I am an MLB, I can play at the MLB level as the most replacement level player, but I can definitely be on your roster and not hurt you.
So
what is that?
There isn't an exact number. If anyone says that they're an exact number, then they're wrong. The range is probably about 750. Like if I had to around there, right? Like give or take 50 points.
Oh wow.
Maybe not. Maybe 700. Maybe give or take 700.
Right.
Miguel Cabrera is his OPS right now is 719, I think, or something like that. And let me put it this way.
That's because his slugging is so low.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Like Miguel Cabrera's slugging is so low. And so if you think about it this way, the average the average person's or the average player's like on base percentage is about 400, right? Like if you hit about 250 and then you get a decent amount of walks in, you're probably going to be have an OBP of about 350 or higher, right? And
Right.
so like whereas like that's where OPS plus comes much more in handy, because OPS plus is adjusted for average. So if someone's OPS plus is above 100, it is above average. If it is
Right.
below 100, it's below average. It's pretty straightforward. So I guess and it depends on the player too, right? Like Miguel Cabrera right now, I would say that he is above average because he is. I am not expecting him to hit a bunch of home runs. He's 40 years old. Nobody's expecting that to happen. It'd be great if he hits a bunch of home runs, but I'm not expecting him to hit.
It'll be great if he hits 5.
Well, right, and that's what I'm saying. Whereas Javier Baez, you would expect more from him because he's a player who is much younger in his prime, etc. And I mean you're gonna expect more from players like Ty France. You're gonna hope that they, and what sucks about Ty France, I think the most, is that baseball is such an up and down sort of sport. So a lot of players who are not incredible players, who were never scouted as incredible players, are this might be their only chance at getting an all-star team. You know what I mean? You saw Jonathan Scope is a slightly above average player. And I mean, you saw last year how he did a great job with, everything. He was hitting the ball all over the field. He was really helping out the team. And then this season, he's just in some sort of massive slump. Same thing with Javi Baez in 2018. He had a great season with the Cubs. And then, and then a couple years later, he's up and down. So baseball's a very, very, very roller coaster of a sport. And people seem to ignore that.
No, it's the definition of, that's why I found it's always very funny when people overreact. I remember early in the season with Javi Baez, every at bat, I could jokingly to you be he's great, he's awful, he's great, he's awful. And now that we're further into the season, he's on the underside of good and what I would want from him. Just the average hasn't been there, and the defense has been kind of shockingly bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's his arm just can't do it. But that that's besides the point. I think that the All-Star Game, I think there's a little too much value placed in it, but I also understand what it means to the players, and that's again why I think not having fans vote, because have the people that have your peers vote for you, because again, your peers know
that is true. That would be nice.
And it's the same thing with the managers. The managers know the game. Many are former players, or at the very least, they've been around the game long enough to be getting paid to teach it and run a team. And then, like I said, if you don't, maybe not everyone puts.
Could be a combination between the media and the players and managers, too.
Yeah,
writers. 100%. They do it in college football, right? A lot, the All-Americans, aren't they chosen by the media?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, the Heisman's chosen by the media,
right?
The Heisman.
I mean, and it's not a perfect system by any means. I mean, the Heisman specifically, because it's a one-player award, so
yeah. And the big issue, it's a one-player award, and it's also the issue with that is I think a lot of college football writers don't watch a lot of games, especially games.
There are so many games.
That's the issue. Whereas baseball,
there's 30 teams.
There's 30 teams, right? So it's a lot easier to keep up on who's doing what. and make an informed decision. Like, I think the big issue with like the Heisman was everyone saw the Aiden Hutchinson highlight reel, so recency bias, and that's kind of what hurt Kenneth Walker. Is like his year it started great and it was consistent throughout, but he didn't have like a boom towards the end. It just kind of was like a very average end, and it was quiet in the media. Whereas Hutchinson, he finishes with a dominant performance against Ohio State and wins in a dominant performance in the Big Ten championship. So all of that kind of, it sways perception. Whereas, and again, if I'm a writer covering USC in California, I'm just going to look at, Aiden Hutchinson. Oh, that's a big name. Yeah, him. Oh, and then the quarterbacks at the, who have the best stats. Yeah, I'll pick those guys. Whereas this is like, and I'm not trying to say anything negative about college football writers, but you can't keep up with the whole landscape. There's just too many teams, too many games. Whereas baseball writers, 30 teams, a lot easier to keep up on who's who, because each team only has 27 men on their roster. And of those 27, there's maybe 2 or 3 that are really going to be worth an all-star vote. So now you've narrowed it down to like maybe 90 guys you're considering for the what are the total slots? Like 50 slots. So that's, a lot easier to narrow down than 3 players or 4 players out of the entire country. Which is why I think the media vote here is a little less likely to cause issues with fan votes or with the fans than it would with the Heisman. And listen, the system won't be perfect. If they went to that, I'm sure there's still going to be some snubs and people are going to be mad and sorry, but that's just how it is. Like, nothing is going to be perfect, but I think this would be a better system. It allows more players who are deserving to get in because it's based off merit and not every team needs a rep and then we'll do merit. It's just merit straight up. And the people voting on it are people who know the sport much more inside and out than more casual fans would.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a lot of words I just said, but it's one of those things I never really thought of, like, genuinely, like, before this, again, because I don't put a lot of stock in the All-Star game, but I also do know what it means to players. That's why I think doing it this way and making the players involved in the decision would give it so much more merit and make it just a better process overall.
Right. Well, and
I think how are you going to argue with the players? Like,
right.
They decided who to send. Like, you're going to argue with me? I play the game.
Yeah. I don't know. Who, Griff, who do you think your biggest snub is of any player? Was it Ty France?
It's really close between Ty France and Dylan Cease because
okay.
Ty France, Dylan Cease has is first, second, and third and fourth in a lot of stats. He's fourth in ERA and second in strikeout percentage, first in strikeouts per 9, really high strikeout numbers. But man, Ty France just mashes the baseball. And at least with pitching, pitching is a much more competitive because there's just more pitchers and there's only 5, however many slots. I can't think of a ton of first basemen in the AL aside from Vladdy who would be up there with him, right?
Right.
Who are the other reps for who's the other first baseman? Who's the reserve for the AL?
So you want to just know everyone? So
let me just.
So Jose Trevino is at catcher for the Yankees. Luis, I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna interrupt myself. I did not know the name of who the Yankees replaced at catcher before now. But anyway, apparently he's having a good season.
So I just looked. There is not a first baseman alternate.
That's what I just told you. I told you this earlier. Yeah, there's not another first baseman.
Yeah.
They literally could have just taken out Andres Jimenez, who, by the way, is having a great season, but you cannot lump all of the infielders together. They are not the same. They're not the same players. You know, like a
Yeah.
second baseman, you're going to have much different expectations for a second baseman than you are going to have for a shortstop.
Yeah, or they have 5 outfield reserves, so there's 8 outfielders. Like take out
Right.
one of the outfielder reserves. Like George
Yep.
Springer, Byron Buxton, so Benintendi is a guy who's probably only there because the Royals needed a guy.
Right.
Even though, like, let's be honest, the Royals don't really, as far as I know, don't really have an all-star.
No, they don't got much going
so,
for them.
But like Kyle Tucker, I mean, I can't speak on Tucker. He might be having a great year. Same with Julio Rodriguez. But there's just no reason.
I mean, I don't understand how Buxton's not a starter. I mean, he's obviously wasn't voted by the fans
because Trout's in center.
Right.
I get Judge being a starter. Buxton should be in over Stanton. I get Stanton's had a decent year, but
Yankees fans love that.
Stanton's a glorified DH.
Yeah.
He's barely an outfielder. Dude sucks in the field. He can mash bombs. But he's kind of like a better Javier Baez at the plate in that he's gonna be boom or bust, but he will boom a lot more for you. And he's worked out this year. I'm not taking anything away from him, but he's not a good outfielder. He should not be starting in the outfield. Buck's been 100 times out of 100. This is again. I'm sure part of that is because he was probably voted. In.
The interesting thing that they did this year,
and they're good.
The interesting thing that they did this year, I can't remember how they did it, but they had one outfielder already made it in, like before the voting started.
It was probably fucking Trout.
So for the AL, it was Aaron Judge. It was Aaron Judge and Ronald Acuna Jr. who both made it in for each league.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and I don't know why. So technically, Trout, Stanton, and I think it was Springer were the top 3 vote getters. So it was Trout first, Stanton second, and third Springer. Again, but that also takes into consideration that Judge he couldn't receive votes. And I didn't understand that process because Aaron Judge not being able to receive votes obviously distorts the vote process for everyone else, because now Stanton probably has a better chance of getting in because Yankees fans they can't vote for Judge, so who else are they going to vote for? Giancarlo Stanton.
Right. So it's a very broken system.
So
even more
feels
reason.
Like
and
less.
Stanton probably deserves a spot, but over tie. I see again. Stanton's not the issue.
Giancarlo Stanton is the only player in baseball who I love to see fail. Dude's batting average this year is .236, and he's in the All-Star game.
That sounds good to me. I'm a Lion. I'm a Tigers fan. .236 is a dream.
236, yeah, sure. His OPS is .831, which I guess is fine. I mean, he has 22 home runs. So, yeah, he's basically if he hits it, it goes over the seats. If he doesn't hit it's probably not going.
It definitely helps that if he pushes it opposite field,
yeah,
short porch and right for Yankees. I'm not I don't really question that. I don't trying to question the legitimacy of anything. Like Judge is a insane batter. Now, would he have as many home runs if he didn't have Yankee Stadium? He'd probably have a few less. That's the thing with Yankee fans. Anyone else, when we play other teams, they can also hit it to right field. It's I'm not talking about individual games. It's the same playing field, right? If you're a team, you load up on lefties. The issue is when it comes to season-long stats, Judge will get to play in the place with the short porch.
He'll play all the time, right? He'll play there.
Half the games he will play with that advantage. Whereas, if you're someone, that's why it's so impressive that Miguel Cabrera won a Triple Crown, because he played half of his games in Comerica.
And Comerica's really hard to hit the ball out of.
He'd probably have another 80 home runs if he
played in Yankee Stadium.
if he didn't play in Comerica.
Yeah.
Imagine if imagine he played in Colorado,
Right.
where
Where the ball just soars.
I will say.
Speaking of which,
I'm gonna miss. I'm gonna miss the home run derby. Like, if the MLB just does away with the All-Star Game and does only skills competition, they should always have the home run derby in Colorado because it was awesome.
Oh, it was
year.
awesome. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, with just because you're up in the air, right? Less air pressure, so the ball just flies a lot further. Oh, Pete Alonso sending dingers.
So speaking of which, who do you have winning the home run derby this year?
Pete Alonso.
You don't even want to know who the other guys are? Actually, I don't think the full has been.
I know. I saw that Alonso got announced. I know Acuna's been announced.
Right.
I don't need to hear anyone else. This is Pete Alonso's event. He was built for this. Like, he was built to win home run derbies and then playing for the Mets as secondary.
Right. His longest is 447 feet last year.
Was that in the derby?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just insane.
What's crazy, though, is before he reached his third season in Major League Baseball, he had already made more money via the home run derby.
Really?
Because he won $1 million.
Because arbitration.
Right.
That's awesome.
Well, because he's not even eligible for arbitration yet.
Of course he's not. That's kind of sick. That he made more.
So yeah,
maybe that's all he trained for was just I just got to get to the home run derby and I can get some money before I actually have to go through, before I get to my first free agency and can negotiate a big contract. It's just like I'm just gonna keep hitting dingers in the home run derby. That's awesome.
So Acuna and Alonso are the only ones that have been announced in the field.
Yeah, I don't need to hear anyone else though. It's gonna be Mr. Peter Alonso. It's gonna be the polar bear, baby.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Okay, that's gonna be great. Well, Griff, you want to sign us off?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was a little discussion on the All-Star Game, but yeah, it's still a couple weeks away, and right now it's just getting through these dog days of summer. Hey, Brad, yesterday, so it's Monday night when this is live, and we're recording this, July 11th. Yesterday was 9 Sundays away from football starting back up. So, and it's probably it's probably only 7 or 8 Saturdays or Fridays from college football coming back. So
can't wait.
We are getting there. Very exciting times. Cannot wait. And Hard Knocks, I think, will start in August for the Lions. So and we're definitely gonna cover those a little bit. We won't break them down episode by episode, but I definitely want to talk about that because I think it'll be interesting. I love Hard Knocks. I think it really gets me going for the football season. Anyway,
I bet it does.
Yes, we are getting there. So thanks everyone for listening. Tune in back again next week where we will talk about something. Again, just getting through these dog days. Maybe NHL free agency because that kicks off on Wednesday this week, and maybe the Red Wings will have something interesting to talk about. Maybe we can reach out and find a guest to bring on, discuss a little Red Wings free agency and their off season, how it's gone, and what to expect from them this year. But yeah, thanks again so much for listening, everyone. We will see you all next week. Be kind to each other. I hope all of your bets hit and you can cash that shit. And don't forget, most importantly, to make your free throws. See you.